2022 was just a beta test, Star Trek. Yeah. Today on episode 296 of Trekland Tuesdays Live. With me, Dr. Trek, Larry Nemecek, coming at you from the heart of Trekland through Portal 47 for some clarity, sanity, and the big picture in all things Star Trek. And hello, Tuesday. Welcome back. Glad to see everybody there. Hey, and thank you, all of you. It's great to see all of those virtual TrekCon folks. Oh, wait, that was the weekend. This feels like this should be yet another. I've spent so much time on camera in the last few days, as have many other folk. But this just was a pile-on the last couple of weeks. That's where I'm coming from with the topic today. Hey, everybody, it's great to see you. If you are new, especially if you just found me in something over the weekend, at Gallifrey Convention Live somehow, or yes, a virtual TrekCon, or anything we've been putting out in the last few days, welcome to Trekland Tuesdays Live. This is the great public meeting place for everything Trekland before you trickle off into Portal 47 or Trekland, or just enjoying the Trekophiles, the Trek Files as a Trekophile spelled with an F. Whatever you're doing, welcome to Tuesday. Hey, listen, this occurred to me. I've been struggling to corral a single topic because this is one of those weeks when it feels like so much is happening. Of course, the lead story this week is finally, after months of hearing everybody happy talk about it, you finally got to see, and the world got to see, what the fuss about Picard episode 1 was, season 3, episode 1. An episode with the chapter name of part 1, The Next Generation. Are you confused yet? Are you just seeing the years pass before your eyes? Yes, indeed, that's the idea. I did a snap poll a week ago, right? And based on the buzz alone, and on top of that, not just the reviewers, but by then, the preview audience, a lot of the fans who were at the preview in LA, and even the charity preview event in New York, the buzz coming out. And a lot of people totally on board, about 3/4 on board, about a fourth watching, but just saying, oh, okay, it can't be that great. But obviously going to watch, and only about 1 or 2% either saying, oh, no, I've been burned or whatever. That was last week's TTL. So what's the verdict since then? Now, it's been interesting to watch online reactions all over the place. People enjoying the nostalgia, people rejecting the nostalgia, people saying nostalgia has nothing to do with it. People saying, I can already tell this is different than the first two. People saying, this feels exactly like the first two. It's still dark. I don't know if I think the ship nerds, all the tech heads, have totally been back in love with the traditional depiction of ships and motion and no lens flares and the blurs and everything being sharp and in focus, so you can see those beauty details on every square micromillimeter of every hull. They're rejoicing, I know that. And they're rejoicing over the art direction, the visual. It's like what you got out of season 2's Stargazer and beyond, and all the in-jokes on all the graphics of the future and the alternate future and the evil alternate future and the alternate evil, whatever. It's been multiplied on top of that. So that has taken center stage, and it is, and we can talk about that too, but you're going to get that all over the internet and the interwebs, and I talked about it on my second opinion. Please like and subscribe if you didn't see that over the weekend. Again, taking a meta view of the episode and what people were saying about it. No, I'm talking about just the cumulative effect. And as much as the premiere was, boy, a bombshell that was a happy bombshell. And then finally, oh yeah, the episode itself, I don't know how much of my audience here today, how many of you all you've talked with or chatted online with your friends, your circles of friends. What an insane success Virtual TrekCon 4 was. This is the 4th edition. I don't know. I guess it just takes some things time to build, obviously. But it was 5 days, taking advantage of the American President's Day holiday on Monday. And through circumstances, I wound up being on camera 4 of the 5 days, which is not to take away anything from all the other. Well, first of all, Brian and Dr. Anne Marie and Dr. Mohammed Noor and everybody who organized it. I'm leaving people out. I'm sorry. Once you go down the list, you're leaving folks out. All the affiliate, all the podcasts. You had the Delta Flyers. You had Shuttlepod Show. You had Everybody for Trek movies. You had so many great. You had Sci-Fi Sisters. You had so many in the community affiliating in, right? This is like the second event of the year. The Trek Talks 2 was huge and amazing, and of course, it's very focused on as a charity event for Hollywood Food Coalition, which is John Billingsley's passion. But tons of people put in for that. That was a one-day talkathon, which was it was like packed into one day and did its job. And then Virtual TrekCon, which had a number of like repeats through the day and some different kind of events, but panels and live events too for 5 days. And then maybe one of the apexes was the Lappy Awards, the Live Long and Prosper Awards. And having a lot of celebrities and, hey, near and dear to my heart, a lot of behind-the-scenes folks jumping in to accept awards, that kind of thing. And especially when you got to the newer categories, and the categories being voted on by fans, but spread out so that you had the legacy shows with their chance and the new shows. And especially those, some pointed at different individual shows, like Strange New Worlds, like Prodigy, like, well, not Picard yet, but, and then something's just limited to the date. What I'm saying here is that whoever was hosting, some were Seventh Rule, the VTC home, some were here at Trekland. Well, all four of mine, including the Lappy Afterwards show, were here. So again, if you haven't done it yet, please like and subscribe. That's part of what they built into it, so that everybody's home channels would have some attention and some traffic, and hopefully new subscribers, and hopefully some survivors, yes. But it was spread out, diverse. So people did have to click back and forth and see where the next event was coming from. But it was all very clearly the website, the schedule, you got it. The diversity of people, including giving the awards at the awards, the humanitarian awards, the lifetime achievement ones to Doug and to Walter and Chase. But it was so sweet to see that included in the mix of things. So I'm just saying this because I, for the first time, had never gone online live on camera with Terrace Cassidy that I do. He has Geek Nation tours and does all kinds of events, including the Trek tour that we do that's multi-day. And sure, it was a great way to promote that, but it was the first time we had just talked about the nuts and bolts of location stalking and sitting at home and doing research, and much less like why you can do it on your own, but here's what we do when we have a group and it's organized and led for you. And, just being on with Lolita. Unfortunately, Janet was sick. She's still getting over it. But on Thursday, to kick things off, as it turned out, and just having that realization again, we've all been Zooming now. Well, I've been Zooming for 7 years, or free conference calling. But Lolita, I know for the last couple of years, pandemic and all. And there was a Voyager update panel. But she and I, and it would have been Janet, just did kind of like just what we used to do in the 90s. And the aughts talk about behind the scenes, especially with them involved. I would go far afield, but being writer focused and heart building focused and just fun things that were part of the day-to-day life, and some stories on the writer, telling tall tales on writers and things. But it just was gratifying to see that. And it's kind of like you have to be kicked in the head. Oh yeah, this will never get old. We always have new people wanting to hear that. And look, I'm being very select. Oh, and then of course, having the great honor, privilege, thrill, and just tickled my heart to finally get back in a much promised we will do specials with Ali again, Dr. Ali Matu. And we did a life support live special edition on Friday, not Saturday. But we had so many lifers and so many new folks, and they gave us an hour and a half, and we did our old format, a little compressed. But we got all the bits in. And it was so much fun to be back with him and interacting with, and a lot of you were there too. And a lot of you consider yourself lifers as well as TTLers, as some of you are Portales, and you tick all the boxes in my Trekland orbit. But I'm just being very selfish here. And then to go live to Gallifrey 1 just for the one day, and did a panel, had 3 new folks I'd never met. Got to meet. This is why Gallifrey is always interesting. I go in with a light portfolio anymore. I don't even mess with having a table. Just go in for a day, maybe 2, because we're just driving down and back in LA traffic. But claps on my shoulder, and there's David Gerald. And I haven't seen David since 5 years ago, before the pandemic, in New York of all places. But I got to meet also through his wife first, and then realizing who I was talking to, the great Marv Wolfman from Comics World, and then his wife reminding me that Marv worked on the Star Trek DC and I forget which, but the Star Trek licensed comics in the 90s, 80s, maybe 90s, as well as some of the strips coming in and out of the motion picture that were daily strips. So, Trek adjacent, but still awesome, and in a green room full of celebrities. But Who fans will shoot me because I'm not doing more, but I am what I am. I'm repping Trek at Doctor Who, and obviously I know when the leads are there. And Colin Baker, that I got to see when he did his Star Trek Continues guest shot, and there's a hysterical video out there of him doing his impersonation of a Southern American, stupid wrestler, Basher Baker, that I interviewed him for, which is hysterical. So that was Gallifrey. It was live, but all of it reminded me even then that even with the reopening we had last year, where I'm getting to, folks, is aside from my exhaustion, and then we had a Portal 47 guest like normal, and I'm still doing Tuesdays live. I have hopefully, I think the weather is actually going to be on our side after all. For our cruisers, we've got a special away days, Trekland Treks Thursday. I've got 10 folks taking a basic tour of 4 sites around Thursday before they get on the cruise for Friday. So I'm resting up a little, but it's, I'm looking at this through my selfish perspective, but it's reminding me, and what people were saying live at Gallifrey, which was still an officially masked convention, I should say, because it was 3,000 people, 2,500, 3,000 people in a hotel environment, not a Comic-Con type, convention center environment. But what I'm getting at here is this has all made me realize how we are still hungry for connection. We are still not back to peak fandom, live or virtual. We are still not, we didn't flip a switch. As much as we flipped a switch and went into lockdown, the long twilight march out of the depths of the pandemic is still happening. COVID is still out there. It's not killing. Well, it's there. People are dying. And whether I'm thinking the vast majority were not vaccinated. So I know there are death totals that get reported, and in some places they're probably being depressed or suppressed a little bit. But I have people I see once or twice a week, someone having COVID. Of course, it's annoying, and they feel obligated to still, shut in and isolate or pod up with their family or even separate from their family. And no, that's not what's going on here locally. We've tested, aside from being fully boosted and vaxxed. Yeah, vaxxed, not faxed, vaxxed. Just a few months ago. But we are still unrolling. Terrace and I had a big tour scheduled, our first comeback tour, 10 days scheduled for this July. And it's become apparent that people are still hesitant. Sure, everybody's on the cruise. I think some of that's familiarity and just excitement. And no, nobody enjoys thinking about masking and social, but it's out there. It's, if nothing else, it's annoying, like catching the flu. Okay, well, if you're going to compare it to the flu, and I'm only saying we do not know the long-term effects of even light COVID when you've been vaccinated. We don't know what the long-term cognitive effects are going to be, or lung effects. That's going to be studied for the next 4 decades. But it's still a comfort factor. Terrace and I have pushed off the 2023 tour to 2024, same time frame, July. Not connected to a con. It's still standalone. So if you were thinking about it, now you've got another year to save your pennies, to do your planning, to see how you feel about it, and to see how you feel about everything. The group at Gallifrey, Gallifrey was the last convention I was at before lockdown. It's always President's Day weekend, February. In 2020, it was before the March lockdowns came and pandemic shutdowns. There was one last year, but it was very hesitant. It's half size, right? We've had the half size very much restrained as people, baby stepped out, walking on eggshells out of the pandemic. We've had, shut down half size Vegas, fully masked. We had Vegas not masked, or masked still last year. And then everybody at night went Yaha, which got me at the parties and things. So, but it's not a black and white process. It's not a calendar date certain. I still feel like it's happening. And because of that, the virtual is still, of course, virtual is popular to folks who can't travel or who go to their local cons, and it can't compare with the variety of people, of guests, which is good. Support your local fandom. Please, please do. But unless you're going to travel to New York or San Diego or Vegas or whatever the nearby, or to London or wherever the hell FedCon is, or destination Star Trek is going to be, or Birmingham, whatever the big new thing is near you, the biggest thing, and you can't get there, enjoy your regional. But in the meantime, the pandemic has given us, virtual cons like VTC was over the weekend. And I know tons of people were there. It just felt to me like the audience, I mean, I'm sure Ryan and the gang will have numbers at some point, whether they want to share them or not. But you could just tell that more people were clued in, more people were there. And yeah, the regulars, like my regulars are, a lot of you overlap with the chat pack, a lot of you overlap with all the online communities, and you're supporting the Greatest Generation was in the pods who were affiliating. It just feels like that movement is getting bigger and bigger. I'm sure Trek Talks 2 will be bigger next year. If I'm leaving out another online event that's been building the last 2 or 3 years and coming out of pandemic, forgive me. Somebody should point it out in the chat. So I guess what I'm saying is I started feeling how exhausted I was. And yeah, I got wound up with, wasn't my original idea to do 4 different panels. And you think, oh, they're virtual. Okay, but I was learning a lot of new tech. I'm not using it here yet, but I will. But a lot of new tech here in Restream. And we haven't had the video. We had the video of our old timer to use for Life Sport Live, which was cool. And the happy music again. But it was on top of that, and having a Portal guest last week. I'm not whining. I'm just trying to take stock of me with the tour to come. But it also made me think about where we are overall, and how many people I had to explain what free conference call was. People who for years would come on with a phone because they didn't have a webcam, and now it's second nature. So thank you, pandemic. And thank you, pandemic, I think, for making people not take community for granted. People found community, whether it's fandom or otherwise, in their virtual boxes, in their Zoom worlds. And yeah, we had Zoom fatigue and all that from people working and having their hobbies and passions in a Zoom screen. But, I predicted we'd go there first and it would be our savior. But I predicted that it's not going away. People are going to use the best of all of that technology. And that's what we saw with VTC last weekend. It's not slimming down in favor of live. It's getting bigger and still will, even as live is not back all the way. Because a lot of times live, for people who can, does involve travel, and people still are. They're recovering financially, if nothing else, but they're also recovering emotionally and taking big. My +1, who's my web guy, Parker, hadn't been out in 3 years, and it's been working and found a way to go, even more virtual than ever. But he was talking about how even being my +1 for a day was his first time out in 3 years, and he's hardly. What's the old phrase? He's hardly retiring, but no. He's hardly a wallflower. He's out in the world. So it's been interesting. This is the busiest I have felt in ages, consistently, like domino effect. And I know a lot of other people may be feeling that way too. And then you add in all the excitement of Picard and the feeling that I'm out looking, I'm talking, but also, and promoting, but also listening to everybody else, and everybody else is excited and talking, whether you're commenting in a thread or the other 47 Star Trek entities out there putting out their content. And you know how I love that word, content, but here, their shows, their opinions, their punditry. And yeah, a lot of this is geared around, a lot of this would have been happening anyway because it's a new show. And a lot of it would have happened because it's a new Trek. That's Picard season 3, the TNG reunion. And there was going to be that excitement factor anyway, and the density and the curiosity factor, especially after, is the hype bar too high? Could it be possibly? It's just all of this. Hit this nexus, pardon the pun. And no, that's not a clue for episode 7 of Picard or something. All of this has just hit, a mass point here. So again, oh, and then on top of all of that, we, not totally unexpected, but I was thinking, oh my gosh, on top of this, I need to stop and talk about this. We lost another person in the greater entertainment community, but in our Star Trek family, a very special person, although I don't think 98% of our fandom community of any era had a chance to see him at a convention. But the great Gerald Fried, the composer from the original series, if nothing else, yeah, I know, the Amok Time fight music, the Kirk Spock fight combat music, is so iconic. It's so iconic, it's picked up in mainstream movies, and people know what that is, even if they don't know what it is. But everything, his shore leave themes, and Mirmani from This Side of Paradise, or the Paradise Syndrome. I always do that. Well, and This Side of Paradise too. Just those love themes, and even Gilligan's Island and his Emmy that he won for Roots. Let's not forget all of that. And the fact that he just 2 years ago, he said, I've probably met him but never interviewed him, but I did get to see him and say hello 10 years ago when La La Land Records, this amazing night, did an amazing box set of everything. And you can go back. It's finally sold out. But if you were a music aficionado, you had to have that set. And there was a big opening sales event for it. So many people worked, contributed notes and research and all that. All these takes and alternate takes and entire soundtracks of everything recorded for the original series. And the special guest was Gerald Fried, who played oboe and did a medley of, And I could not believe I happened to pick up my phone, and I think I had the iPad then, but I picked up a phone. No, I didn't. Totally off my phone, about 6 rows back, but a great shot of him. It wasn't even full. I was so mad at the Trek world for not filling that auditorium that night, even just if it was just LA folk. But I got a late start, did stills, realized I should be recording this, looked around. I didn't see any cameras, even official cameras. So I did it. It's there. It's probably one of the top 2 or 3 videos I've ever put on my channel. It got another wave of attention this last week. So I wanted to say RIP Jerry Fried, and a huge thank you. Just 2 years ago during pandemic, a guy who had kept up with his Zoom game, even as he turned the corner into 90, did 2 episodes of the Trek Files with us, and we had memos talking about him and the other composers. So I just posted about those 2. The links are up on my site, on Trekland, Facebook, etc. So if you haven't seen those, you might want to take a look. But on top of everything else, I was hoping that the Trek world could pause and remember Jerry Fried. And as some folks pointed out, way beyond Star Trek. But oh my God, what he gave us. And again, a little lost there that later editions of Star Trek, the music choices that were being made weren't near as iconic or long-lasting, apart from Ron Jones, who was basically fired for doing it. Yeah, and realizing what a treasure we've got of our current composers who are giving us such great music that people are feeling that vibe. And even our composers now, as with Picard, who are, yes, they're paying, just as we pay homage in the visuals and the characters and the writing, the music pays homage without being derivative. No one's accusing anybody of ripping off Goldsmith or Horner. But yeah, very, very, all the evocative themes that work into new ones. So kudos to all of that. But on top of everything else, just making sure that we took a breather. I didn't want to have a 9-sentence long title today. I didn't know what else to do. What I'm trying to say here is sometimes I was saying, take a breath, Star Trek was my alternate title for today. It feels like we thought 2022 was going to be the reopening, and things were moving that way, and we were going through the motion. But we are still reopening, and it's doing this. They're bigger and better. But if we're reopening live, virtual is still busting out, and it's very much got its place. And for all those around the country here, but around the world, who, even if they get to travel to a con, it's once a year, it's twice a year. These other events are just a breath of fresh air. And then what the studio brings on First Contact Day and on Star Trek Day, is Frontier Day going to be the launch of the NX-01? Is that going to be another pre-holiday? Sadly, it's going to be in April, so that would give you 2 holidays in April instead of spreading it out through the year a little more. But there you go. There you go. When you think about what Paramount, I have to now get back to what Paramount's going to do with those days, virtually and live, just adds to the mix. It does. How is everybody feeling out there? Are you? I mean, I think there's people who, I mean, the entire rack of virtual programming from Virtual TrekCon is still there to be seen. If it's like mine, the original chat is there. It takes a day and a half to process it, but it eventually does pop back in. So you can go back if you were talking with somebody and you want to recreate the chat conversation, you can do that. And I know it's been going on in all the live stream shows that have come along, all the virtual events that have come along. I hope that's been a thing. So I appreciate all of you here. I felt like I should come on, and for a minute it was just gonna be another VTC event, but no. And maybe this was a little overkill on my part this year. Somewhere between what I wanted to do and what I was asked to do, and then what I was asked to do late. Thank you, Lolita. As it turned out, it would have just been her solo, which would have been rough. So that was a lot of fun too. But I again, and finding all kinds of new folks in that stream, and maybe some of you are here today. So today, again, not exactly a focused comment here. I don't like to do those. I like to have at least a point. And if nothing else, R.I.P. Gerald Fried, the last of, we have so few folks still with us from the original series in any capacity. And the idea that he was funny. If you listen to our Trek files with him, he was really, really funny. He wasn't on camera. He did not have a camera. It was all audio, which were audio too. But I mean, well, that's Trek files is audio, but we didn't come away with a Zoom box to have with him. He recorded it audio only. But I just am feeling really blessed that we got to have that and had a conversation, and in my own personal way got to thank him, since I really hadn't before. And the night of the La La Land thing 10 years ago it felt like there were only 40 people there, but boy, they were intense 40 people, 40, 50, 60 people. So I think that's going to do it for me. So again, a little bit of an umbrella this week, but I had to take a breath myself and look and see what was going to be like. What does this mean right now? Where are we right now? What does this mean? Fandom as a microcosm of the world at large. And you know what? I don't think for the folks who are just now coming out to get back to live events, I don't feel, at least where I'm standing physically as well as metaphorically here, I don't think anyone's pushing anybody. People are just coming along on their own comfort zone, and that's fine. That is fine. If anything else about Star Trek, we're always, anti-gatekeeping and whatever, representation and all that. And if nothing else, it's like, if you can't be in a comfort zone about how soon and in what form you enjoy your Trek, then we're really at a loss here. So, be patient with folks when you see them live as they come back out of their caves. Still, not everybody came out in 2022. That's what I'm saying. 2022 was just a beta. It's still happening. We're still getting there. We're still looking at our scope of what's doable based on that. And virtual is still going to pick up the slack. And virtual then will not go away. My prediction. It'll be used for the best of its best. So how about that? How about them apples? So I can't wait to see what everybody's talking about today. If somehow that feels a little soft, but if I stirred something up, got you thinking, that's awesome. I look forward to seeing your questions in the chat over here. First off, though, I do want to obviously give a shout out to all of our Patreon folk, our TTLers and our live wires. So thank you as always, Diana Hopkins, Robin Wilson, Lawrence Todd, and Marie Siegel, Justin Porteous, Glinda Bruton, Chris Jiggins, Andrew Jazemski, Pranakasha Productions, and Gay Clevin Lundstrom, and our live wires. Halberd Gunn Johnson, Robert McLean, Alan Hoensi, J.R. Poole, Byron Dave Gregory. Dave won the best predictions for the Lappy Awards, by the way. So congrats there. And Casey Shafsky. Thanks again, guys. And if you want to jump in on my Patreon, it's very simple. It's just so simple. It's only $5 and $10 a month. I don't do a whole Kickstarter reward schedule because I do so much else. But thank you for this. And we are diligently working on getting the interviews for the $10 folks for you live wires. We are going to get them. I promise. I have 2 years worth of backlog to get out. Patreon.com/TreklandLive is the place. So thank you for that. And you know what? I'm going to say this. Trek Files is on hiatus. We are on our hiatus. Going to be back later in March with our 10th season. But you know what? The last 4 episodes, if you did not hear them, are alternate with Terry Matalas, showrunner for Picard season 3, and Dave Blass, the production designer for season 2 and 3, and the guy who's is a pro, such a pro, but he's also been a big fan his whole life, and you can tell who of the legacy art folk he brought back into the fold to work on, along with his incredible staff, which also includes tons of fans in the mix. So the Trek Files, 9 seasons are there. Check it out for hiatus time. And if you didn't catch just the last few weeks, it's a perfect time to jump in there now. And maybe what Terry talks about updating Star Trek and taking good care of Star Trek, maybe it will resonate even more now that you've seen episode 1. And of course, it's Larry Nemecek on Twitter, Larry Nemecek's Trekland. Please like and subscribe wherever you are, especially on YouTube, over on Instagram as well, and portal47.net. I don't know how far and wide virtual is going to go, but I bet no one is going to be a mini-con all year long the way we have done with the folks that you don't normally see, even when virtual starts letting more people into your living room or your office park. If you're watching us later on YouTube, would love to have you with us. If you can, live someday. Maybe you'll be home, hopefully not homesick, but maybe you'll be home on a Tuesday holiday and you can join us live. That's at 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 Eastern, 9 UK time GMT, and 10 Central Europe. And we are global. We are global, and we are live in the beginning. Hey, also a shout out. With everybody seeing us for the first time over the weekend, we have a Trekland store at TeePublic. Love for you to go over there. There are sales twice a month. There are sales. They set the dates. Everybody who has a store on TeePublic is all on sale together. So I always just say, wait till the sale is on. I mean, the amount of coinage that trickles back to us is not that great. So it's like, I'd rather have everybody out there and being able to get something from, the stickers and magnets, but all the stuff, the computer bags and as well as t-shirts and hoodies and everything you can get there. And we have Cadet Alice stuff now as well. So TeePublic is out there too, but I don't talk about that very often, so there you go. Otherwise, what I do talk about is, as we were saying, we're basically okay, but weird stuff happens. And you know what? Even if COVID is like flu for you, it's still annoying as hell. So I'm just saying, I don't know if we'll ever be as Eastern Asia as everybody masking. This seems like that ship has sailed, at least for this generation. Who knows what will come down the pike? Whatever you can do, though, just, be safe, be sound, be healthy, and do all the things. One thing that is not seemingly going away is fake news. Checking your sources. Our bots and troll contingent are still out there. So stay woke. Check your sources. Make sure what you're being told is for real, and make sure what you haven't been told gets to you. Trek well, everybody.